Hello and welcome back to a new video here on the Ludwig Fusel channel. In this video we're gonna continue on with our game engine series, and what we want to do today is we want to create a so-called layer stack manager, or separate our applications in layers. So what we have done currently is we have just integrated some basic DirectX 12 and some basic IMGUI rendering so that we have some debug UI. However, currently the IMGUI calls are somehow entangled with our graphics code. So if you would take a look into the 3D12 graphics, you're going to actually see that there will be some kind of IMGUI integrated here. IMGUI is implemented by D3D IMGUI, which is abstracting all of the calls away. However, you will see that we actually have a call to IMGUI here. For example, here in your IMGUI frame is initiated when we are beginning the frame on the D3D12 side. However, this is something that we don't like and that we want to abstract a bit away. Why do we want to do that? Well, because we want to organize our application and how our application works in different ways. For here, it's not too bad. The new frame here, it's not a big deal. We can handle this. This is not a problem. We can have it here and it's all good. However, what's more of a problem is down here where we have our end frame that we are doing IMGUI draw here. If we want to draw something on top of IMGUI, or we even have multiple instances of IMGUI, we're not going to have multiple instances, but let's just say that we would want to have multiple instances of IMGUI. I don't know if it's even possible, but this would screw it up. The same if we want to render something other on top of IMGUI, for example, some additional UI, or we have kind of like our game that's drawn in the IMGUI UI in the editor, and it needs to happen after IMGUI has been drawn. We cannot do it if it's done like that. So what we want to do is we want to make a layer stack, the layer stack manager. I like to somehow call it layer stack manager, but yeah, basically what we want to do is we want to add a new class that handles all of these layers that our application is composed out of it. Now what we're going to have is we're going to have like a 2D renderer layer. Maybe we're going to have later on a UI layer that handles like UI draws, like in-game UI, and then we're going to have like an IMGUI layer, maybe some debug UI layer, and then what you can do is you can layer your application on top of each other, and all of the layers kind of like manage the flow of the code. And in general, the idea is that these layers are kind of like more or less independent, and later if we kind of like have the game tick and an engine tick in the frame, then we would have like a game tick that kind of like feeds the subsystem of the engine tick, so that our game is kind of like updating the engine, and then the engine handles like all the interactions with the low-level APIs like drawing, audio APIs, and all of that code. And this all comes together of having like this layer stack. The layer stack is it's not only used for games, it's also used for other applications. In the end, you can always use a layer stack for every kind of application. I do have a similar thing when I do like Linux server applications. I have something called like a thread manager, and then I have this different subsystem running each in their own thread, and the so-called layer stack manager basically just handles that all of these threads are fed, created, and also what I implemented once was a messaging system between the threads. And yeah, in the end, this is what the layer stack system is going to do in the game engine. So layer stack is how I'm going to call this. Layer stack like this. Okay. And now we're just going to implement the way this works. Okay, so we're going to have engine, and we're going to have a class. Oops, no, don't want to do this. Class layer stack. Okay, so let's add some documentation. That's interesting because I have configured Visual Studio now on a different system, and it's making the comments a bit different, but I don't care. How did I do the comment block so that we just are unified like this? I'm doing it here. Okay, so implements application abstraction in layers. We could even have a layer that's kind of like our game. That our game runs as a layer, but as a layer that does not like draw anything. That's also possible. So then we can completely handle it with layers. Okay, so how is a layer stack going to be composed out? A layer stack is going to be composed out of layers, but what we don't have currently is we don't have layers. So let's actually start by implementing layers. Okay, so layer.h is going to be the interface for a layer. Okay, so namespace engine, and then we're going to have a class layer. This is going to be the interface for one layer. Okay, so I have, what the hell? Why do I have? No, okay, now it works. Interface for an application layer. Okay, so how are we going to build the interface? So first of all, what I want to have is I want to have a virtual destructor. Okay, so the virtual layer, let's make this one default. Okay, like that. And then what I want to have is I want to have a virtual void, or let's make a virtual bool update. Let's put this one to 0, but I do not just want to have an update like that. What I want to have is I want to have the delta time in here, and dt means delta time. I'm really a bit now, since I have it differently on different machines, but yeah, that's not a problem. Okay, so updates the logic of the layer. The parameter dt is the delta time in seconds, so this is the delta time that occurred, and then the return value is true when successful. Returning false will terminate the application. So the idea is that we run through, and as soon as we occur the false, we are basically returning from feeding the layers. So that's basically what I want to have. I want to have an update method, and I want to have a virtual void draw, and the virtual void draw will basically be a draw method. So in the end, what the layer will implement, and maybe we do not want to have that one, if a layer does not need to draw something, so you just want to provide a default implementation here, but we want to have the ability for a layer to draw itself. Okay, so draws content evaluated while update. So that's the general idea. We might also have later on a few callbacks. So maybe let's add them directly. I want to have 2 callbacks. So let's make these callbacks. They shall be, let's make them protected. So the idea is in general, like, this is the public interface of the layer and the protected interface of the layer. No, let's make it completely public, because we're not going to have, I don't want to expose them manually. Okay, so on init is going to be something that's defined as a callback. So let's maybe also make this a bool. No, let's just make it a simple callback. Called, or actually no, normally what you have on a layer stack is more an on attach and an on detach. Called when the layer is attached to the stack. It's quite simple. And then this is called when the layer is detached from the stack. So that's the general idea. Attach and detach, these are just functions that are being called so that you can kind of like get this event. So on attach is more like an init function, and detach is a uninitialized function. Okay, so now that we have the layer interface, let's include this. Okay, so let's include engine core, and then let's include layer.h, and there we go. And now we just need a container for these layers. So I want to have a vector, and also want to include memory, because I don't gonna store raw layers. And basically our vectors, actually no, let's not make this a vector. We can just make this a plain list, and let's make an std list of std shared pointers of layers. Or maybe, I don't know, is a vector better? Maybe a vector is better, because we are not going to remove that often, so we can make it a vector, and it might be better to access them. However, yeah, that's our layers. Okay, so that was basically how I'm going to store my layers. And yeah, the next thing that I want to do is I want to implement a few features of the layer stack. So yeah, the first of them is the attach function. So void attach layer. Okay, so attach layer is going to get a const std shared pointer layer reference. Layer attach layer, and then we're gonna also have a detach layer function that also takes the layer to be detached. So very simple interface, attaches the given layer to attach, and maybe the detach could also return if it was successful. So let's make a bool in here. Okay, so detaches a layer, detaches the given layer to detach, and returns true if layer was detached. False means layer not in stack. So that we have a bit of informations on here. Now these ones can be implemented quite easily. Of course, I want to have a new file for that. Like that. Let's implement attach. Attach is actually quite simple. The only thing that I want to make sure is that any existing layers are detached. So detached layer, we can just simply call that one. So if there was one, it's getting detached. And then I can go and say my layers push back layer, so that we push one back, and then we can just run the onAttach function on the layer. As simple like that. That's how I want to attach. Detach is going to be a bit more involved. I think we should be able to use std-find. So layers first, layers begin, and layers end. And layers end. So we're going to search for this given layer. Existing layer iterator is going to be that, and if existing layer iterator equals or not equals layers end, so if we have one, then sure, we're going to say true because it was detached, else we're going to say false because no layer was to be detached. And then what I want to do here, of course, is I want to go to my layers and erase the given iterator from it, and then since we have the layer here as well, we can run the onDetach function to notify the layer that it was detached. Okay, so these are the very simple functions to attach and detach layers. Now what I want to do is I want to have the function to update the layers. Update layers. This is a very simple function. This is like one of the core functions that we're going to have in our engine. Updates. Okay, we need the delta time. The delta time shall be computed externally, not by the layer stack itself. Updates all layers. Runs. How did we call it? I think update and draw. First runs draw, and then first runs update, then draw. So this is basically how our logic works. It's going to update everything and then draw everything. But maybe, or maybe do we just want to expose it? No, what I actually think we want to, do we want to really have the update in here? Because we could factor out our begin and end frame on the GPU, but since we are synchronizing on the end frame as well, it doesn't really matter when we call begin and end frame, so it's not a problem yet. Okay, so DT, this is a delta time, and returns true when all updates were successfully. So we had this Boolean function, and this one is basically the one that's directly escaping from that. So by default this one returns true, but the initial thing that we're doing is for auto reference layer in my layer stack. Basically what I want to do is I want to update each layer. So if the update with the delta time on one layer fails, I'm returning false, and otherwise after all layers have been updated, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the layers. Now this is how it works. First all layers get updated and then they all draw. This is really important that we do it like this. So for example, if we have a renderer 2D and multiple like layers perform things on it, like later on we might have a layer that runs the game and maybe one that runs the engine on it. So an engine layer and a game layer maybe, and the engine layer is kind of like responsible for executing a scripting language. then the game layer also wants to update the components on the system later, then 2 layers might need to run update before we can run draw, and this is the whole idea for that. So then what we can do is we can draw each layer. This is the whole idea of the layer stack. And the layer stack is actually quite simple, and it's as simple as that, and not a lot of code, but makes it quite powerful. Now what I want to do is I want to change a bit how ImGUI works, because it's in class ein ImGUI, but it is also going to be a engine, yeah, I don't know why this doesn't work. Yeah, I know multiple inheritance, so maybe not the best one, but this one is now also a, oops, not here. It's going to be also be an I layer. So ImGUI is actually an I layer. That's really, really important. Now basically this implements both. It's going to be an ImGUI system and a layer. Now this would now allow us to basically push ImGUI on the layer stack. And this is exactly what we will do now. First of all, we need a layer stack. We're going to have it in here. So layer stack.h. That's something that we need in here. And the engine context will have a layer stack. Just a simple layer stack like that. Layer stack. Okay, how do we want to do it? Maybe... yeah, it's going to have name problems if I name them the same. Maybe we're gonna rename this into Layer Stack Manager just because of that. And with a bit of Visual Assist magic, this whole thing is renamed, and then we can call it Layer Stack in here. Now, what's your problem with that? Layer Stack Manager is undefined. Engine. Okay, this one is not taken through. Okay, so now we have the layer stack, and now the only thing that's necessary is to basically push ImGUI on the layer stack. Now something that is now really important is actually the order in which we push on the layer stack. But we need to actually make sure that this order, how can we make sure that this order is asserted? Now, first of all, we could just see that we inserting to the vector at a time, or we can also just use priorities at the layer. So maybe we want to use priorities and make them comparable and order them. We could do that. Or I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it quite simple. Just adding a priority. Or are we? Now let's now keep it simple, and later on make sure that we insert a proper mechanic for that. So let's now go to init. Now first of all, the OS init happens. That's okay. And then after the operating system has initted, we can go to our get function, and we can go to the layer stack, and we can attach a layer. And then what I basically want to attach is I want to attach my ImGUI. And I think, what is ImGUI currently? I think ImGUI is a unique pointer, which means this doesn't work. So let's make this one a shared pointer. And actually I think I'm just going to make everything now a shared pointer. Let's just make everything a shared pointer. What does that change? It should not change too many things. If I make everything a shared pointer, the only thing... make shared. That's the only thing that we really need to change. We should change everything to make shared, and then we are good. And now I can basically attach the ImGUI layer, as simple as that. And now ImGUI is as a layer and it's in place. Now the only thing, it will now not compile because the functions are not implemented. You're going to see that. That it has a problem here. Cannot instantiate because it doesn't like these two functions. It doesn't have them. So let's go into ImGUI Windows and let's implement the onAttach on the onAttach and onDetach. We don't need them, but I want to have update and draw. But I cannot. Virtual void draw? Why can I not go to draw? That's interesting. Oh, come on. on update. We can implement update, that's for sure. Maybe let's make these ones now private. The new frame and draw. We cannot because, yeah, that's a problem. The draw method is now already defined. And that's why I cannot implement it, because it's already there. Basically in the IIM GUI there was also already a draw method defined. There's also this new frame method that we don't really need. Actually the IIM GUI does not need to exist at all, because the IIM GUI is just a layer. Let's completely get rid of the IIM GUI. And make this an I layer. Oops, what? IIM GUI, that's not what I wanted to do. I layer. IIM GUI is actually just a layer. And then we have now the new frame method. We don't need that one anymore. We just need these two here. You can see that there's the update method, and basically the update method is that one, plus some extra stuff that we're going to add in a second. So maybe we still need the IIM GUI, the interface back. I think maybe we need it back, because actually, okay, no, we don't need it. I don't want to do IIM GUI that way. Let's do IIM GUI in a simple way. It's going to, yeah, but it works like that. So as you can see now, basically the render is in the draw method. The only thing that I have a bit of a problem is the way that how I'm accessing the DirectX 12 stuff. So basically DirectX 12 is now a bit abused. You can see that I'm retrieving a comment list and I'm setting descriptor heaps, but I'm not doing anything with actually rendering it. So let's actually go into the D3D12 graphics, and I have this get comment list in here. We have to wait for fans. And what I want to have is I want to have draw command list. I just want to have a simple draw method that draws the comment list. And I think when I'm getting the comment list, I just want to wait for fans, so that I make sure that the fence has actually executed before I'm gonna retrieve my new comment list. Actually, no, I need to put this in here. Let's make draw a synchronous call, draws and waits. So this is actually now a blocking call. Hello and welcome. Draw comment list can now be actually, let's remove that one because we don't need it anymore here, and remove it here. And draw comment list can be actually this one here, can now basically be abstracted away. You can see all of these stuff which are used to close it, to retrieve it, to execute, to wait, to reset the comment lists. All of that is basically going to now be a call to draw comment list. And this is factored away in the new method. Where do we have it? Draw comment list in here. Okay, so we close it, we exit it, we flush the queue to make sure everything is through, and then we reset it. I think this is something how we could do it. We could just execute it all at once, I think, but yeah, let's just make everything an independent draw call that's on a layer stack. That we might need to change that in the future is for sure. Normally what we should do is we should implement two comment lists and always have one active and one idle comment list, and then we can maximize throughput by basically doing it like that, so that one comment list is like, or not comment list, we can use the same comment list but two allocators, and we could more or less even have a queue of allocators, but two would be more easy, and then we could do some ping pong around so that every time like a layer is finished it's drawing while the other one is currently recording draw commands. And in the end we can go even further, that in the end one frame can be in draw and one frame can be in an update, but this is really advanced and this would then require us to make it all a bit more thread safe, but yeah, I think maybe we're gonna get there. Okay, so now we just need to abuse it in the D3D12 IIM GUI. So basically mgfx draw comment list is now going to be issued here. So retrieving the comment list, we can now do something with the comment list. We basically can assume that we now have this raw comment list. We just need to do something with it, and then we can draw. The only thing that I might be a bit concerned is that the comment list might be in a state that we don't like, and it's probably going to be. And what I think we should do for that is to actually change also how the get comment list works. So actually, instead of get comment lists like that, which is currently returning an auto, we want to also have a void prepare command list. Let's make this one internal. So what we're going to do if we are retrieving the comment list is getting prepared, and then we return it. And we're going to call this one setup and get comment list. Setup and get comment list, so that it makes a bit more sense what it's doing. And then what we're going to do is all of that initial stuff that we do on the begin frame on our comment list. So basically we are getting our comment list here. So this resource barriers, this is all something that's not a big deal. But in the end, this calls what we are doing in here. This is more or less that we need to have as a always set point. So this one, this is really important. Clear render target view, these are all begin frame things. We don't really care when they happen, when they are executed. We can put them in here. Only thing is now that the RTV handle is no longer a thing, which is basically just requiring this. I'm not sure if this is a good idea what we are doing, but we are here for a bit playing around and building an engine with it. Okay, so now the comment list should be always prepared for drawing. If we want to override it, sure, it's not a problem. And now what we're going to do is, I'm going to say auto comment list is equal to mgfx setup and get comment list. And then what we can do is, with that comment list, we can do our rendering work, and then we can draw it. So we're going to retrieve the comment list, and we're going to do something with it, and then we're gonna draw it. And as soon as we're doing this, we should have no problems at all, hopefully. Let's see if we're going to have any problems. Okay. I'm going, I think it's all like this. Now the only thing that we really need to do is to change it in here, because there's no going to be something like that. So now we're going to have an eye layer. ImGUI is now actually going to be in layer, and everything else should be still more or less the same. The only thing that we now need to do actually inside of main, after we begin our frame, so this is like some code that we have done. This is actually something that we would put now into a different layer, but for now let's just keep it, or let's move this actually into the ImGUI update. Let's move this in here. This is some demo code, so to do remove demo code, and now it's a bit factored out there. Let's go to main, and what we are now going to do, layer stack, don't need that, but we can get the layer stack here. So we call this one just stack here. And then in the end, what we want to do here is we want to update the layers. And now what we need is a delta time. I'm just going to put in 0 for now, but in the future, of course, we want to have a proper time. And actually time management is a whole different story, because time management is really, really important in the engine. You could reverse the time, you could pause the time, you could skip the time, and we would want to have some dedicated controls for this engine time or game time in the end in our editor then. But this should for now hopefully do not change anything, only that we have include problems. Okay, so where's this problem? Okay, that's okay. Let's see, is that the only one that was left? Nope. Must return a value. Okay, return true for sure. Okay, that's what we want to have. And as you can see, it does not really change anything. We still get our Dear I'm GUI window. But what I want to now do is I want to now write something like a game layer. And this is now something that we can put in our empty game. In the end, it will not be in our game, but of course, it's something that we can put there. So let's write the class empty game layer. And we're going to say that this is a public I layer. Okay, no, an engine I layer. And what I want to do in here, this is going to be a very, very simple layer. I'm just going to say that I want to go update. Okay, so now I have my update body in there. And inside of that update by layer, what you're actually going to notice is that we're going to do some ImGUI stuff in there. And this is now actually, let's go directly in here. This, we should remove that. Yes, sure, we're going to remove it. And we're actually going to put that in the game. So from now on, you can see that this is actually handled from the game's point of view. And if we run that, it should be no problem and it should be shown, but it's not. Why is it not shown? Well, because of course I have not pushed it. Sure, that needs to be done. So let's go to the stack and let's attach a layer with std make shared. And let's call this one empty game layer. Let's make this one here and let's just attach the layer to it. Okay, a problem. Update must return a value. Again, we fooled. Return. Let's put true in there. Let's return true. And there you go, we have back our ImGUI demo window, and that's the whole point. However, now it's outside of the engine. So now if I want to play a bit around with ImGUI, I can do it in here. And if I then now going to decide I'm going to do something like show the FPS, I could go in here and say, okay, what are they doing in demo window? Okay, in demo window, they are doing the simple overlay example. Okay, what is the simple overlay example? The simple overlay example is going to draw an overlay. Okay, how they are doing that? It looks really interesting how they are doing the simple overlay. But let's just be quite of a friend and see what they are doing. Okay, so the location is going to show where this is. So this is going to be the bottom right. So it's location 3. Yeah, what is location 3? What are they doing? Okay, they're just checking what they are doing. Interesting how they are doing that. I think they are just doing a bit of math to do what they do. Okay, location -2. Yeah, we don't care. We're actually just going to care about that. So let's just steal that code from them. How are they going to do the contents of that? So they're going to do some ImGUI begin in there. Okay. That really is not cool. I did wanted to do something simple. Okay. So let's just do something simple. If ImGUI new frame, no, window, begin, just begin, yeah, let's just put a begin in here. Okay, ImGUI end, I think. It's not like that, right? I'm not sure, but there it is. There's my window that I've just created. There we go. We could go in and make some ImGUI stuff. Like the whole point of that is that you have like it now under a different control. And if you have multiple layers, you can put them together. And what I can put in here is, for example, is hashtag ifdev. How did we call that one? Engine debug or something. How did I call it macro? I think I did not copy it over for the empty game, but yeah. What we could do is just play a bit around with the things and then not attach it or attach it. But that's not really the point of now. But what you can see is that, yeah, our main is getting quite a more populated. We are doing a lot of things, a lot of like logic that we currently don't even care about, right? We don't care about the logic. Well, why don't we care about the logic? Because we would just have a class game, right? And in the game class, we would have some, maybe maybe some implementation about a layer and have that game be implementing a layer and then just attach the class itself, something like this, to just give kind of like an option to run all of that out of our control. So what we would really want to do is we just would want to have a masterclass game that handles all of this stuff for us. But I think that's for a different video. So let's talk about that in the next one. For now, that's it. So thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe and have a nice day. Bye.